All right, good morning, everyone. We have the brothers who do projects, both media gurus, and we've got lots of great stuff to talk about. You guys have been since birth, basically, doing projects, right?
Well, since I was born anyway,
Yeah.
because I'm the younger brother.
But I wanted to talk to you guys because I love how you're making this international connection, family connection, keeping in touch during COVID. And I really love your Kama and Blowy series. So good job. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to start just briefly introducing yourselves? Who wants to
You
start?
go first. You go first, Kama.
Oh, g'day. I'm Kama. I'm the older brother. My real name's David Douglas Stewart, but yeah, a long story, but basically I got the name Kama. It doesn't sound like it, but it comes from the Japanese word kamikaze, and Australians don't know how to pronounce it. So my nickname was originally Kamikaze because I did some crazy stuff out of a skateball in our little hometown, and people thought I was suicidal, and so they called me Kamikaze. They got shortened down to Kama. I'm in Kagoshima, Japan. I was on this show a few weeks ago, so some people may already be familiar with me. But yeah, I work as a journalist. I'm currently freelancing. We'd actually originally planned to take our whole family around the world for a couple of years and do some slow travel world schooling, as we called it. But because of COVID and my wife got pregnant, so we kind of put it on pause. She's Japanese, she's from Osaka, but we decided to come down here to Kagoshima and set up camp here for a while.
Yeah, and I'm Joe, also known as Blowy, and my nickname, since we're going into nicknames, David actually made up my nickname as we were editing a video because we've been making videos a long time, and we also rollerblade, and we were in a team, a rollerblade team, and we were editing the rollerblade video, and under the subtitles we had to put the person's name, and I wasn't there, so Dave just made up a nickname spontaneously, and he wanted to make a nickname that was going to annoy me because that's the type of thing you do as brothers, and so he called me Blowy, and he called me Blowy, and that was from Joe Blowy. That's where it came from. So now I'm Blowy, and I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and we've been in a pretty tough lockdown for the last 4 months. So it's been level 4, so it's been really strict, and they're just starting to ease the restrictions now. So it's really good.
Yeah, you guys were only allowed like out for an hour for a while, right? Weren't you? So doing your show, how was it? Like, were you able to fit it in?
Well, that's a good question, because that's why we actually started the show, was because that was the only thing I was allowed to do, was go out for a walk. And so I said, oh, hang on, if I've got an hour to go for a walk, I can walk and talk with my brother and make a podcast. So that's exactly how it was born.
And I notice usually on your show, one of you is skating, the other is walking, or sometimes on bicycles, but rarely you're both skating. Is that a plan because it's too distracting, or just happens like that?
There are a lot of big hills here, so unless I'm in town, it's not really suitable for skating. And also, you've probably seen we had some problems with sound. So originally I was just using the GoPro mic, but with wind and everything, if it's really still, that will work fine. But the moment a car or something goes past or there's background noise, it's not so good. So I've got this contraption normally around my neck with my my recording device with a lav mic plugged in, and because it was originally in a bum bag, a fanny pack, but the knob started turning, and so the sound just got really hot, and so I said, okay, I can't do this. So I created something out of an old PET bottle that I kind of put it in so I can see, it's clear so I can see inside and nothing's going to hit the knobs. But if I'm skating with that on, it's going to be swinging around, hitting me in the face and everything. So since I've been using that sound, I haven't had a chance to skate.
Yeah, when I was looking at it, I was thinking, wow, that really looks like a pet bottle. Isn't that funny how that gear looks like pet bottles?
Yeah.
It's
No,
good.
I just kind of made it with what I had available.
Good innovation. I love it. And congratulations on you guys hitting 25 episodes. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
when you guys started, I started around the same time, this series, and you guys inspired me to get in touch with my sister and do one of the episodes with her. So that was great. I love this family collaboration thing. Let's talk about some of your past projects. I think you're going back in time. What was this 100 ice cream project?
Project that's really inflating it, I think. But basically, we've always liked, just silly pranks and things like that. And McDonald's had these ice cream cones that were famously 30 cents each. This is in the mid 90s. And that was kind of one of the things that we could afford. And I mean, they're not healthy or anything, but uh, so anyway, I just kind of did the calculations in my head and said, it only costs $30 to buy 100 of them. How funny would that be to go into a McDonald's store and ask for 100 ice cream cones? And going back to rollerblading, we had a skate team, Team Spinal Hazard. We did these demonstrations at the local show. And we had like a 4-hour period or something between a couple of shows. And we were kind of discussing what we could do. And I was looking around, this could be the day. I think there's enough people here. If we have 10 people, $3 each, we could do it today. So I kind of told people about this idea. And I wasn't sure because it's $3 each. It's not really the best investment. But to my surprise, they were also, yeah, let's do it. And so we went down there, and I was a speech and drama student at the same time as well. So I was kind of thinking about the theatrics of it. And I thought the funniest way to do it is to casually walk up and have a look at the menu board and make it look like I'm thinking of a decision, and then kind of say, can I please have 100 ice creams, please? And so they thought it was some kind of prank or something, but we kind of put all the money down the counter, and the manager had to come out, and she goes, the machine can't handle this. You're crazy. And anyway, long story short, we got shortchanged by about 52 ice creams. And so we went back and we're in a bit of a huff and gruff. And one of the youth workers who kind of helped support our team, she was livid. She was like, they can't do this. So she asked me for all the details, and she drafted a letter, and we sent it off to McDonald's. And I happened to be working at a different McDonald's at the time. And somehow, by mistake, they sent it to the wrong store. You look into this and they said, I know this name. This is one of my employees. And they checked their addresses and they matched up. So he called me into the office and said, this manager is about to lose her job and it's all on you. And I'm like, what? And he hands me the phone, and there's a sobbing voice on the other end of the line. And she, those extra ice cream, someone else must have walked off with them. And she was still sticking with this story. But, I felt really guilty that I didn't want her to lose her job. Looking back at it now, that was really unfair to put me in that kind of position.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I kind of withdrew my complaint, and that's kind of basically where it ends.
Hang on, you sold out.
I sold out.
Him a couple of free meals for himself in order for him to be quiet and cook them.
But no one else pursued it. They were free to do their own. There were 9 other people who could have pursued that if they wished to.
Well, let's talk about a more recent and probably your biggest adventure, bro venture, around Mt.Fuji. How did this one come about? This is crazy.
Yeah, well, Dave and I, we both lived in Japan, but usually they're at different times. And every now and then we're in Japan at the time, and I was going over for a holiday, and Dave was going to be there. So we wanted to do something together, and we both enjoy riding push bikes. And so we always had a plan of riding all the way on a mama-chari. And for the people who don't know what a mama-chari is, it's just like the basket bike, the old lady bike with the basket on the front, which you go do the shopping with. It's not a bike to be doing long distance on, that's for sure. But we wanted to always ride from the bottom of Japan to the top, but we didn't have enough time for this. So we thought, what's something epic that we can do? And we thought, let's circumnavigate Mt.Fuji. That sounds like a good idea. And Dave's like, yeah, it's a good idea. Let's do it. So we got to Mt.Fuji early in the morning from Tokyo on the Shinkansen, and Dave had gone previously to find a place where we could hire a couple of push bikes. So we went and found this place where we hired these city bikes, the mama-charis, and we jumped on them and we rode a long way. Where did we get to the first day, Dave? Do you remember where it was?
Oh no, I think it was the second lake.
There was a big lake, and but anyway, it was the most like difficult bike ride I've ever done, and it was just all uphill. And then we stayed in this little it was like a ryokan or something like that, I think.
Yeah, it was an inn, but it was a family-run hotel basically.
Yeah, but we stayed there for the night, and then the next day we kept going, but we got lost, and we ended up at I think there's an amusement park, Food Highland, yeah, and we ended up there somehow, and we rode for an extra 3 hours extra that we shouldn't have, and then we had to go back down. Only made it, but we documented the whole thing and made a video, and it just shows how.
We're going to continue where we left off. Sorry, it broke up. We're talking about the bro venture on mama-charis, used mama-charis around Mt.Fuji. And so you're staying at like a ryokan. I remember watching that part, and you're like, is it there? Is it there? Like it's a really long day. And you finally get there, and you're like, oh man, that beer is gonna taste so good. And you're wearing your yukata and everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then we they had like the centaur there, which was really good because we could have a nice soak in the bath, and they had really good food, and yeah, it was great. But then the next day we had to get back on the push bikes nice and early again because we knew we had another big day, and it had all been uphill up until this point, and the next day was the same. It was just all uphill, and we took the wrong turn, and we kept going uphill, and we're like, this is really weird. We should be getting some downhill by now, but that was because we got lost, and we ended up going on a detour for an extra 3 hours up Mt.Fuji when we were supposed to be going around it. So we went back down after we found Fuji-Q, the resort, and we went back around and kept going, and we were a bit worried we weren't going to make it to our destination because it was starting to get dark. But then we were so happy when it started to go downhill, and it was amazing downhill ride because it went for just kilometers and kilometers, and we just ate up the rest of the kilometers just going downhill, and it was a good treat.
I believe it was almost like 30 kilometers of the final descent.
Is that right? Wow.
I've never been downhill that long. Like it was just like, wow, this is never going to end. It was great.
And yeah, we were going faster than the motorbikes and the cars. We were like, we'd go past them, and then we'd see them come past us again, and then we'd go through. And so it was a great ride. And the guy who we hired the bikes off, we told him, didn't we, that we went to around Mt.Fuji?
Well, he wasn't there on the way back, so we had to give them at his shop.
Yeah. But yeah.
But even that was like, I'd done the reconnaissance mission at the start, looking for bikes to buy, because I thought if we just buy a cheap one, because in Osaka I've seen them at shops secondhand for like 3,000 yen and I thought then we'll just give them to someone at the end. But like, yeah, I went to all these places. I couldn't find anything less than 10,000 yen or something, and it was actually Joe's wife that eventually found the place that hired them.
Yeah, it's funny when you guys are hiring them, and then you're like, oh yeah, 3 gears, okay.
Yeah. They're not going to help.
That's not a big help, no, but we'll try,
My favorite part then was when Joe was trying to make a joke with the guy who was renting them out, and he said, oh, the red one's faster, isn't it? And the guy says, no, they're exactly the same. And he goes, but it's red. That joke didn't translate.
It didn't translate.
Didn't translate. But why? Why this project with mama-charis around Mt.Fuji? Like, where did the idea come from?
Yeah, well, as Joe said before, like the original idea, like back in the noughties, I guess, was the idea that we'd spend a month or so riding mama-charis because it's a quintessential Japanese bike, and lots of people are doing it on touring bikes and things like that. But we kind of always like to make things intentionally difficult in some way. And the mama-chari just seemed like the appropriate way to do it. And we were kind of, before we were catching up. Like we were throwing other ideas out there. Like my idea was to go back up to the area that had been afflicted by the typhoon. Oh, sorry, by the tsunamis. But Joe said, no, you've already kind of been up there, so let's do something new. And the moment he suggested, circling Fuji, I said, yeah, that's it. But the annoying thing was that when we arrived, we had a clear view of Fuji. And on the second day, there was a window where we saw Fuji, but generally it was covered by clouds, so we didn't get to enjoy. I mean, it was still nice scenery and everything, but we wanted to be able to kind of marvel at Fuji from different angles and everything. And we only got like, how much do you reckon, Joe? Like half an hour max of Fuji viewing time?
Yeah, not even.
Not even
I don't
that.
think. Yeah, probably 10 minutes total.
Yeah, there's some classic scenes. Now, interestingly, both of you guys are audio visual guys, right? So you have each of your own edits, right?
Correct.
Your own different videos.
Yeah.
Did you have a rivalry going or something?
No, we've done this a few times where we go film something and we go back and we make our own edit and then share it. And it started off with me filming Kama, and then I did his edit, and he filmed me, and he did my edit, and at a skate park in Brisbane, and we kind of like to make fun of each other a little bit in these and have a few little digs. So if you fall over or something, we're definitely going to put that in, then, or if you pull
not
some
only put it in, but also highlight it.
Highlight it, exactly.
As a good brother always should, right?
Exactly. And so we did that, and we've done it a few other times, but we thought, look, let's go back and we'll do our own edit, and we'll pull all the footage together and just see how different they are. And amazingly, they were quite similar. We selected a lot of the same footage. We had hours and hours and hours of footage, but we ended up selecting pretty much the same footage.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the different versions. And then to realize, like, of course, you're doing it together, so most of it is going to be similar, if not the same, right? Yeah. But I love that project, and it's one of your most popular videos. More recently with your comment, that was 2017, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah. So more recently, you've been doing a lot of videos just walking, talking during COVID. And then you've been adding guests. So let's talk about some of your guests. Of course, on this series as well, you talked to PaprikaGirl.
Yeah. Can
you tell us about that talk?
Yeah. So PaprikaGirl, I can't. That's right. I sent her a message on Twitter because she was talking about. Oh no, she had a picture of her an area in her workspace. It was a wall, and there were all cool things hanging up, like all bits of audio and visual kit, and I think there were even some mechanical skateboards or something up there as well. And I said, oh, that looks awesome. What do you do? And she was talking about assistant directing. I said, oh, have you written about that? Because that sounds really interesting. She goes, I'm not sure people would be interested in about it. I said, yes, they would. Like, why don't you come on our show? Like, I just threw it out there, not even sure if she'd say yes or no, but she goes, yeah, I'll do that. So that was enough for me. But we spent the first half talking about her directing stories, and it was fascinating. So Joe and I have both appeared in commercials and stuff like that back in the 90s. We were at the skate ramp one day. Actually, Joe wasn't there, but an agent came down to the ramp and said, oh, any of you boys appearing in a burger chain commercial? And everyone's hand shot, pick me. She said, no, I don't pick them. I'm the agent. You have to go to an audition and impress the casting people. And so since we did that, we had a bit of interest, and I've been on student films as well, acting in them, and so we kind of have seen behind the cameras. But hearing all these stories from Japan and these places like Kabukicho, which is kind of like, I guess, the drinking kind of area of Shinjuku, and there are lots of gangsters around there. And so when she was explaining how difficult it is to get a filming permit in there, you don't just go and apply at the local ward office. You have to go down to bars and smooch to people and give them your idea and everything. So hearing all this story was just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I love that episode. And there's things, I've talked to her about her kimono life and her Japanese style many times, but never about her actual job, about directing. So that was really fascinating. I love that. And so many
Yeah.
great stories about people who are difficult to work with, and
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But she can't say their name because she got to work with them again.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
and she's classy as well. So
She's so classy. So
Actually,
cool.
I'm gonna have to ask her if she can use her contacts because I was actually on a TV drama in Japan when I was living there. It was called Kotobuki Wars, and it was on Fuji television. But I recorded it on VHS. I was playing a priest, and I was like a wedding celebrant, and I had quite a few lines in Japanese, and but I really want to find a copy. So if anyone's got any connections out there to
What's it called?
food,
One more time.
Kotobuki Wars.
Okay. If I ever hear of that, Kotobuki Wars. If anybody knows of
Yeah,
it, reach out. We need a copy.
you need a copy. Yeah,
that would have been 2005 or so, was it, Joe? Or
something
four?
like that. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Also, you talked to a guy on Ogijima.
Kind
Ogijima
of.
Magic, yeah? Kind of.
Well, so he was talking about Ogijima, but because of the pandemic, he didn't travel to Ogijima for this.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But
that's an interesting thing about what you guys are doing, right? Like you're in contrasting weather zones.
Yeah.
So sometimes it'll be a beautiful day in Australia, horrible weather in Japan, or vice versa, right? So it's really interesting to see that in you guys' videos, how you're talking at the same time in different countries via, how do you do it? Via WhatsApp?
WhatsApp
oh,
or Facebook
yeah, and
Messenger.
we've got a GoPro, and like we put it on our like a selfie stick, and we also have a mic. I've got a small mic, and as we talked about, Camera's big one that he hangs around his neck. But we connect on an audio call, so WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or something like that, and so and then we sync it all on in our editing after, and cut it and sync it. So it takes quite a while to make each episode, but we've kind of got it down to an art now where we know exactly what we're doing, and we used to, the first episode we didn't even have our face in the shot. We just had like scenery because we thought that's what people wanted to see. But our mum made a comment and said that she just saw too much road, and we're like, okay, cool, maybe see a bit of face might help. So it's evolved a little bit, but also in the introduction we made a scene where Dave and I kind of are doing the same thing, and like he does a roll on the grass, and then I roll in, and we kind of made it pretty much what you're saying there, like the in different places, but at the same time we're doing the same thing. So that's what we tried to capture with our intro.
Yeah, I love the concept, and I think it works really well. And then you can point out different things about each area, which is interesting to people in Japan or people in Australia or people anywhere who's watching. Dave, I noticed you were pointing out about the garbage cages.
Yeah.
And then you guys were talking about the differences of garbage sorting in Australia and Japan. Of course, that's a big sustainability issue. We would love to see more garbage sorting. I know it's a big headache, but when I visit Tokushima, Kamikatsu, which is aiming
Oh,
at
yeah,
zero waste, and
yeah.
they like San Francisco. I think there's only 2 cities in the world at 80% diversion from landfill right now. How many categories do you think they're separating garbage into? You were talking about
Well,
maybe 9 or 12 in your
here I think
area?
no, there's more than that.
Yeah.
I think I'd say Kamakatsu would probably be at least 30 or so, I'd imagine.
They're doing 45.
45.
And then
Wow.
behind the scenes, the staff have to do even more. So
Yeah, wow.
it's like every different kinds of paper, or every
Yeah.
different kind of glass, or every different kind of plastic. But it's amazing what they're doing in San Francisco. I visited the recycling resorting center, and they're also at 80%, and they do curbside pickup. You were
Yeah,
you
wow.
were talking about the wheelie bins, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Wheelie bins. So
Yeah.
that's, I mean, we all have to think about garbage because it goes somewhere, right?
And
Absolutely.
I guess by sorting all your garbage, the more you have to touch it and sort it out, the less you probably feel like using, because you're more conscious of it and you're going, oh, all this waste that I'm using. So it'd probably have a knock-on effect, which makes you use less garbage in the first place.
I think so, definitely. A woman I talked to yesterday, Caitlin from America, she said that same thing. That now in Japan, she has to separate into 9 categories. She has to touch her garbage. She has to wash her garbage. So next time she's shopping, she's like, do I really want that? You know, because it's a hassle, right? Definitely
exactly.
has an effect, I think. How about the eagle mushroom grower?
Yeah, I think you invited him on, didn't you, Joe?
Yeah. So our dad has had a fascination with this guy, and his name is Eagle. That's his actual name, and he's Taiwanese, but he's Australian, but he's from Taiwan originally, and he's just a really interesting guy that's got a big backstory. And if you ever need anything, you just ask Eagle. He can source anything for you. He's one of those guys that you say you need something, he's, oh yep, I can get that for you, and like he'll get it for you in like a 1,000 of them in bulk, and he doesn't mess around. So Dad said, oh, you got to get him on the show. So
just a bit of backstory there. So our dad's been doing Aikido for the last 30 years, and so Eagle had kind of just arrived in Australia, and so we often hear Dad talking about these different people he had met, and he just wouldn't shut up about Eagle. Oh, Eagle, he knows all about this, ancient Chinese literature, but then also technology or anything he's like a real Renaissance man. Like he knows a bit about everything.
Mushrooms are cool. Mushrooms are awesome.
Yeah. Well, he built his own mushroom farm, a mobile mushroom farm out of a container, and he got all these like old refrigeration things, which he hooked up the electricity himself and made this massive, almost like a fridge, and got it all to the perfect temperature, and he got all the spores and everything, and there were these like massive trumpet mushrooms that like this big,
like forearm sized ones.
And he would make the most delicious mushrooms, and he even sold these little kits that you could buy, and they were like a cardboard box, which all you do is tear off the top and put a bit of moisture in there. You'd spray a bit of thing every day and then close it back up again, and you'd grow your own mushrooms, and they were pretty good. But he kind of lost interest in that and started doing all these other things, painting. He's painting this massive mural. Just every time you talk to him, he's doing something completely different, and it's just amazing.
That is cool. I mean, in Japan, you can go to any like DIY center and buy the logs, and they already have the spores embedded, and you just leave them like in a shady place in your garden, and it'll grow shiitake or different kinds of mushrooms. I love mushrooms, but I wouldn't trust myself with just foraging in the forest. I would be the one to choose the wrong mushroom and then, be like on drugs or die, or worse. Yeah.
I was in Switzerland last year, and I was talking to some people there, and they said that they have actual little. I think they're manned by volunteers, but they've basically got these little booths around the country where you can take in all these mushrooms you've collected, and they'll kind of tell you if they're safe or not.
That's a good idea. I mean, they have like plant apps now where you can take a picture of whatever you're looking at, and they'll tell you what it is or what it looks like. But there's always that little bit of, error. Oh, it's safe. And dead. But I love this concept that you guys are not only talking to yourself now, but you're bringing in other people and introducing other people. It's very similar to what I'm trying to do. And I think during coronavirus, it's so hard to communicate with other people right now. So bringing in interesting stories and adding to what you guys are talking about, it's really great.
Yeah, we're kind of running out of stories, so we have to do that.
Are you? Well, I think you have an interesting one coming up, don't you? On Miyajima?
A woman we know went to
Miyajima. Who was that? Yeah.
Wait a couple of weeks to see who that is. I've kind of forgotten momentarily.
The next one I'd love to talk about is the bamboo weaving lessons with Tanaka-san.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah, so I used to live in Vanuatu, and when I was living in Vanuatu, I lived in a bamboo hut. And because I was living in a bamboo hut, I was just like, this is incredible. This is a grass. And, it's just grown, and they just stripped it down and weaved it together, and they've made walls out of it. And so I was absolutely fascinated with bamboo. And then I moved to Tokyo, and I just remember seeing bamboo used in so many creative ways there. And I said, seeing as how I'm in Tokyo, like, I have to take this opportunity and learn more about it. So I'm going to find someone who can teach me how to make stuff out of bamboo. And I went to to the phone book and looked up basically the bamboo section in the phone book, and just wrote all these addresses down and plotted them out on a map. Got on my bicycle and went around Tokyo and just cold calling these places. And I think after about 7 or 8 rejections, I finally found this place where this guy had a little shop, and he was weaving baskets and things, and he said he'd teach me how to make it. So I started going in for weekly lessons there. But then my wife and I got together with my wife. We weren't married at that stage, but she said, "Oh, I'm going to move back to Osaka since I graduated high school, I've been away from my parents. So I thought, before I get too old, I'll spend some time with them." And so this is oyakoko, filial piety, which is not a term I was familiar with before, but it's quite well known in Japan. You go and repay your debt of gratitude to your parents. So I said, yeah, well, I'll move with you. So we moved to Osaka, which meant I could no longer do these bamboo lessons. But I wanted to stay in touch with him, so I did. Whenever I'm in Tokyo, I go and visit him. But yeah, I also ended up making a documentary about him, which is another story. But yeah, this was all we kind of discussed this whole story in that episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's
Well,
incredible.
it's a beautiful film that you made, but this was just referring back to your experience bamboo weaving and everything. It's such a great kind of lost art in Japan that you don't see very much anymore.
And I mean, I just looking at the bamboo baskets themselves, I mean, I was absolutely blown away. But then after doing the actual training with him and realizing that all of these things, he starts with these big lengths of bamboo, he splits it and into little lengths to weave with, and then he kind of just strips it off so it's just got the enamel and a bit of the fiber as well. And he can get it to, using these very simple techniques, he can get it to about 2 millimeters.
Wow.
And yeah.
It's incredible, isn't it? And like PaprikaGirl was talking about the bamboo whisks that they use for tea ceremony. Yeah. And watching the video of those craftsmen making the whisks as well, and then watching your bamboo weaving, it's like these guys are so skilled, and it's becoming less and less. The artisanship is being less and less passed on. Such a shame.
Well, thankfully, his son is also working under him and learning this.
Nice.
But another thing that he's still not, he's so advanced in my eyes, but his father still hasn't given him his artist name, because you can't choose your own artist name. It's like a nickname. Someone else has to kind of choose it for you.
Oh, wow. Isn't that interesting?
And so, yeah, every time I go there, I say, "Oh, have you been given an artist name yet?" And his dad's like, "No, not ready." And I'm thinking, wow, when he gets it, it's going to be a major kind of milestone in his life, because
yeah. Well, you did some other ones, like a skateboarding company guy who started from scratch. Was that in Australia or Japan?
So his name is Ben. His nickname was Swami. We also use nicknames on our show. That's the first question we ask our guests, is what their nickname is, and his is Swami, because he can put his legs behind his head like a Swami.
Wow.
yeah. It's probably a yogi, which he probably should be, but we called him Swami. And he was from Brisbane, but he's moved to Hokkaido. He's living in Niseko, yeah, and on one of the ski resorts. He works there, and he's during the coronavirus, as you can imagine, the amount of people visiting the snow resorts has just plummeted instantly, and because they get a lot of foreigners there. And without the international travel, then there's zero now. So he's decided to start doing something that he's always wanted to do, and that's make his own skateboards, because he's really good at making things with his hands. He's amazing craftsman himself. um, and yeah, so he's in his shed. He's built these big, massive concrete presses which bend the plywood into the proper shape, and he uses pressure to keep them in. And he's just ordered a heap of ply from America, and I think it's in transit at the moment, but it got stuck for a few months in somewhere because of the coronavirus, and they couldn't move it. So he's just waiting for his wood to arrive before he can actually make his first boards to sell. He's just been making prototypes at the moment, but once his supplies arrive, then yeah, he's going to be all steam ahead.
That's really cool. Niseko is
Yeah.
such a cool place.
Mm.
I took my kids there a few years ago because they're so into snowboarding, and it
Mhm.
was just heavenly. Like we went late season, so everything was really cheap. We had this beautiful, like Western style house. I think it was run by Australians actually. And it had like thick insulation and stuff, so it was super comfortable even though it was so cold outside. And I think my kids remember the house more than the snowboarding because it's, like even our house here is not that cold, but it's colder inside, right?
Yeah. Well, in
But
Hokkaido, like I've been
oh,
up there as well. They're all so
amazing
well.
snowboarding. Oh,
Mm,
unbelievable. Like
yeah,
I'm not a big snowboarder, but the views from the slopes, I wouldn't care if I fell down because I could just take in the view.
yeah.
Well, we're going to get him back on when there's snow there again.
Yeah.
There's a bit of snow on the top of the mountains, but like we get proper snow, we're going to get him in, and it'll be a completely different
Yeah.
walk, I'm sure.
We went to a fabulous skateboard snowboard shop right there near the slopes. I wonder if like he was there or if that was his shop.
Possibly.
Well,
Yeah.
Oh, it's,
his wife works at that shop.
Oh yeah. Okay. It was a
Yeah,
massive.
yeah,
It was like mostly Westerners were working there. They had like a big coffee station going where loads of
yeah,
locals came in with their dogs, and I mean it was just like, where are we? Are we in Japan still? Like this is amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Really cool. But yeah, you really feel for places like that with no tourism, right?
Mm,
Because they're so dependent on the
mm,
inbound market. I mean, there were more Australians there than Japanese for sure in all of Niseko or
yeah,
Westerners full stop. So
yeah.
inbound
I think that,
tourism's big hit
yeah,
there.
yeah, they're going to have to make a shift in their marketing, and I believe that they are, to try and get more Japanese people out there, because before they were just marketing at foreigners, but now, yeah, they really need to get the Japanese people there, just because that's the only people that can come at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, it might really attract more domestic tourists because it'll be a lot less busy, maybe a bit
Mm,
discounted with go-to campaigns and stuff now. So
yeah,
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 it could, as long as they hang on, as long as they don't close, that's the risk right now. A lot of places are closing. It's just too hard.
have you
Um,
taken advantage of any of the go-to campaigns?
I'm going to Kyoto next week and I'm driving. And even for drivers on the highway, you can get a discount if you register in advance. And that's part of the Go To campaign. So the Go To campaign is like becoming more widened now. So they're offering like highway discounts. Restaurants are getting involved with the Go To campaign. So you can get discounts at restaurants and stuff. Are they doing anything like that in Australia? Like to try to encourage local businesses support?
Look, the problem is because we've got still lockdown. They don't want people going
Yeah,
anywhere
that's
in
true.
in Melbourne. So, and all of our states are actually, the borders are locked. So, um, we yeah, every single state border is pretty much locked. There's a few places which can go um, via via plane, but hopefully by Christmas they're going to be the borders are going to be unlocked, and I think Australians, as soon as they unlock those borders, everyone's dying to go on a holiday anyway,
Yeah.
and we can't go internationally. And I heard a crazy stat, which is like Australians spend like it was $40 million or something on international travel each year, and so all that money is going to go into domestic tourism, so because they can't go internationally. So I think as soon as they open the borders, yeah, it's going to just happen naturally.
Are you allowed to go to New Zealand or not? Just Australia?
Well, not Victorians.
Yeah.
So Melbourne's in Victoria, and no, I don't think the other states are allowed to go there yet. But there is a bubble that they have created. So New Zealanders are allowed to come to Australia now, but they are planning on allowing Australians to go to New Zealand.
Wow. It's such a contrast, isn't it, David, compared to what we're experiencing kind of normal situation here where nothing is really locked down and the numbers are really low. And I think in a year's time, we're going to look back on every country's situation and be like, wow, they handled it well. Wow, they really didn't know what they were doing. Like we have no idea which is the better way to lock it down or to keep it going, right?
Also, because I'm very new here in Kagoshima, I actually only know like COVID Kagoshima. I haven't experienced. I don't have anything to contrast it with. So
yeah, that's true. You haven't seen it alive and active.
Maybe it's normally a bustling metropolis. I don't know.
Kagoshima
Shibushi City.
Kagoshima is a beautiful, active place. So, yeah, crazy. You have to go visit Senganen in Kagoshima and the beautiful outdoor gardens. Alex Bradshaw was on the series talking about it's like a traditional regal house and gardens, and it looks beautiful with views of Sakurajima, the island with the volcano. Yeah. Looks fantastic. Now, Blowy, speaking of islands, did you live on a tropical island? You've got a video about you.
Yeah. So have you know the Great Barrier Reef?
Yeah.
That's hopefully everyone knows about the Great Barrier Reef, but there's an island that I lived on in the Great Barrier Reef. So I'm a graphic designer. And once I finished university, I wanted to get a job as a graphic designer, but it's really difficult to get into the field, as a lot of these type of fields are. And I was going to lots of interviews, and I just couldn't get a job. And I found a job which was in Hamilton Island, which is up in the Whitsundays group, which is near the Great Barrier Reef. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. So I applied for the job, got it, and packed up all my stuff. Got in my van, drove up there. It's about 2,000 kilometers. So drove up there, and I just went and parked my van in the long-term parking, caught the boat over, and I started working as a porter for the hotel. There was on the island. They owned the island, and they found out that I could speak Japanese, and so I got a job at the aviation, the Hamilton Island aviation there, and I was actually a Japanese guest liaison. So I would be like the tour guide, go out to these amazing places, go out to Great Barrier Reef, Whitehaven Beach, which is like one of the 10 greatest beaches in the world, and it was amazing. I got to work on my Japanese skills by talking to Japanese guests. B, be an amazing place in the world, and C, go scuba diving with the guests, and got to fly in planes and helicopters, seaplanes, and I just was there really to save up so I could move back to Japan. But it was a good little place to save up because you're locked on an island, you can't go anywhere and spend your money. But yeah, it's an amazing place. I'd recommend anyone to go to Hamilton Island.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Erin has commented. Thanks for joining, Erin. She says, sounds like a dream job. It certainly does. And she also says, we are being drastically pushed toward technology and innovation because of COVID. So talking about the bro ventures and the projects you guys are doing. Yeah, it's awesome. Now, David, you also lived in Vanuatu, right? So we talked about that in your interview. You guys have both had tropical island experiences and Japan experiences. It's an interesting contrast comparison. Would you like to go back to living on a isolated island in the
In the South
middle of the
Pacific.
ocean? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the health concerns. Like
Yeah.
back in 2008, my wife and I went there for 3 months. We were kind of leaving Japan, moving back to Australia, so we thought it was a good time to do that longer trip where we wouldn't disturb everything else. But unfortunately, after 3 months or so, she had to be medevaced from the country because she had sepsis, like a blood infection, and that kills a lot of people. But so she had to be taken back to a Sydney hospital into the intensive care ward, and
Wow.
yeah, it was. We had great insurance, which was definitely
That's
so.
good.
Yeah, make sure you have
That
travel
is
insurance.
that is something that I appreciate so much as an American living in Japan is
Mm,
having such great healthcare and
yeah.
being able to access healthcare so easily and so reasonably priced.
Oh, yeah.
Such a nightmare in America right now. Aaron says, "Oh yes, diving is huge for Japanese tourists in Vanuatu as well."
Yeah. They've got oh, what is it? The SS Coolidge, which is like an American ship that was it must have been bombed during the war in Vanuatu. But anyway, it's the most accessible like large shipwreck I believe in the world.
Wow. And
There's also another place they call it $1 million, and it's called $1 million Point because after the war, they had all these excess kind of jeeps and tanks and things like that, and instead of selling it or whatever, too hard basket, and they just threw it
sunk
all
it.
into the ocean. But so with oil and stuff in there, so
Oh.
yeah. But so now these are all kind of embedded in the reef. You can see coral hanging off all these tanks and things like that. So
I guess it becomes a diving adventure, right?
yeah.
Aaron says, so they don't have good medical facilities in Vanuatu?
Very basic. Yeah, very
Yeah.
basic. It's like when we took my wife into the hospital to get checked. This is the main hospital in Port Vila, the capital of Vanuatu. Like she was lying on the bed when we looked up. There's like blood smeared on the walls, and they kind of said, "Oh, it looks like you got a kind of cold," and so they kind of sent her home. But then we said, "No, no, this is something's not right." So we went to a smaller international hospital,
Yeah.
and they said, "No, no, this is serious." So they pumped her full of antibiotics, which may have
Oh,
saved her life. The doctor there was so good that he was also really good dealing with the insurance company because like looking back, it looked like they may have wanted to save some money, so they kind of said, "Let's send her there." He said, "No, no, she has to go straight to this hospital, and as a doctor, I'm not taking anything else because I'm responsible for her."
yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, but generally not. No.
No. Let's get back to Japan a little bit. You guys have introduced hitchhiking in Japan and sleeping rough. Is this something you guys did together?
Yeah, we
Say
this was
hello.
before our projects. We didn't really have a video camera at this stage, so we couldn't really make a video. We took a few photos because we had digital cameras. This is when digital cameras were just becoming a thing, and we went the station Juhachikipu. It was like I think how much did it cost? Gosen?
No,
Five
no, it was like
or
it's about 10,000 yen, a bit over 10,000 yen, and
So
you get
it's
five
yeah,
like
five
a
days with.
5 days.
it's like a typical student travel discount, right? That a lot of
Yeah,
Yeah,
students do.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, and it's like it doesn't give you like the Shinkansen or the fast trains. It's kind of like the slower trains and the more the budget trains. So we got one of those tickets and we left from Tokyo and we got the very first train in the morning and we're trying to go all the way to Hokkaido and then we're going to hitchhike back and we actually made it when we went into Tokyo. They didn't actually stamp our tickets in the morning, and we transferred, and we made it all the way to Hokkaido in one day. Is that right, Dave? We got there in one day.
yeah. We got
We
there
got there
late
at
in the
night time.
night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it
then
was a full day of travel.
they when we were on the train and the guy on the train that was checking the tickets because we were going through the tunnel, which was an extra fee. And the guy said to us, "Oh, it's an extra fee. You shouldn't be on this train." And we're like, "Oh, sorry, we're Gaijin." we didn't know.
But
And he's like, look,
can I stop there? Because a year or two earlier, I'd taken the train, and at that time, you could take the tunnel to Hokkaido with that ticket. So it had changed.
so we
So
did think,
it was an
yeah,
honest mistake.
honest mistake. Anyway, so then the guy phoned the next station, which was in Hokkaido. What city was it? Cameron? That was in
Hakodate.
Hakodate. And so the conductor, he knew, okay, there's two gaijin that will exit here. So he just waved us through, and he goes, yep, that's them, go through. And they didn't stamp the ticket then either, so we didn't even use up any of our ticket, and we got all the way to Hokkaido.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and the next day we went to Sapporo, and we stayed there one night in a backpackers as a treat, and then we went and had some Genghis Khan or something, and went to
The hot
had
pot.
some,
Yeah, hot pot is really famous in Hokkaido, Sapporo,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So you guys were also sleeping rough? Were you like just sleeping in sleeping bags or?
yeah. So
We
on
took
the
a
way
tent
back,
as well.
yeah, we took a tent, which we used when we were in Hokkaido. We slept under a couple of bridges and just on the rocks. And then we woke up in the morning. There was like a police boat right next to us. that was moored there. And we're, oh, better leave now.
Yeah.
But then we hitchhiked back, and we slept on a bench in Akita, and that was just in like a rice field. There was like a bench there, and we slept on that just with a couple of the tents wrapped around us. We slept in a park one night. That was actually a really good night's sleep, that one.
Because I when I do destination consulting and stuff, talk to places that really want more visitors, I always recommend that they have free campsites, or they be a bit more flexible about allowing certain areas where people could sleep rough or pitch their tent for free. And it's such an attractive thing, and I think there's so few places in Japan that offer the free campsites, right? And then they'll close it at certain times of the year. So I always recommend just keep it open all year, make it free. I don't think people would mess it up, like I don't think people who are taking advantage of a free site would be that rude. But I think these are the things they worry about, right?
How do they respond when you kind of throw that idea out to them?
I don't think they've ever thought about it before. And I think they think of it as a mendokusai thing, that they're going to have to go in and keep it clean or something, or, oh, but there's no toilets nearby, or, but if you can put a porta potty or something, it would be a great service and add appeal to your destination, right? Especially now we're trying to push people to open up the rural areas, and some businesses in rural areas, they really want visitors, but then there's a lack of facilities like places to stay, or it's too expensive, or the only kind of hotel has like a set where you have to get the gorgeous food and like be tied to that hotel as well for all your meals, which I think makes it a lot less inflexible for a lot of travelers. Yeah.
But just
Aaron,
quickly, hitchhiking in Japan, the basic model we used was just to scroll our destination on a big piece of cardboard and stand somewhere on the side of the road holding that up. And well, I mean, we covered a lot of kilometers. Just one thing though, that really kind of I felt really bad about was when we were going from Sapporo to Otaru in Hokkaido, we were walking along, and we found out in the middle of the city it's not really good. It's not normally better if you're on the outskirts of town or in the middle of the country. But we were walking for probably an hour, and eventually a guy picked us up, and we're on our way to Otaru, and we find out that he'd gone past us earlier and then walked again on the way back. He'd seen us again and said, "Oh, no one's picked them up. I'd better get them." And he took us all the way to Otaru, and we said, "Oh, so what are you doing in Otaru?" He goes, "Oh, no, I'm just bringing you here, then I'm going back to Sapporo." I'm like, "No, we didn't want anyone to go out of their way. We're just hoping to hitch a ride with someone who was already..."
But sometimes you meet such lovely people like that, right? Who just really want to take care of you. And sometimes I'll see students out like during the break time from university, and they have their signs near the highway, and they're asking for a ride as well. It's it's a pretty safe country. Fingers crossed. I haven't heard any horror stories. Aaron says, my friends and I slept in front of the train station in Takayama, Gifu once because
Yeah.
all the hotels were sold out for a festival. It was due to poor planning, but hi, it happens. Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, if you're having a festival in your area and you have limited hotels, open up some of your green spaces, or say, please go ahead anywhere you like along the river, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
there are areas where people would be happy to camp, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And one thing I see in Japan that I don't really see in Australia, for example, is like if you're on a boat or something, they'll often have these. You can get the cheapest tickets, which gives you a little fold-out mattress that's in a huge communal area with tatami or something down. You get one tatami per person, and so you don't really have that privacy, but you feel safe because it's kind of like a large communal area, and it's open and everything. Um, so I mean, that's it's not too much of an extension to go from that to having like an area somewhere with a large tatami kind of hole
Yeah.
where everyone can lie down.
I think so. And to have the idea to keep your public restrooms or your camping facilities, to keep it open all year, and you don't need staff there all the time. I think to get that idea across, that would really open a lot of the rural places up, and then people could drive there, cycle there, hitchhike it there, and really enjoy kind of a wider area in Japan. See a lot of potential there.
Mm.
We just have a few more minutes. Let's talk about your future projects. Any ideas for how you're going to go forward, guys?
Well, we've got one that we want to do, but it's going to take a bit of planning. But we want to get David just recently acquired a little motorbike, a little Honda Super Cub, and we want to do adventures on those. We'd like to do the whole of Japan, but it might just be going around Kyushu or something like that potentially.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I think it's, just keep it up. Just keep doing videos where you guys are talking about what's going on in your lives. You guys are both super busy. It's amazing that you keep doing it regularly. Try it live sometime. Why not do a live stream of the talk and walk?
I think that one of the problems is the reception in where Dave is. It cuts out a lot, and I don't think we're going to be able to get a good connection. Like with audio call, it only uses a little bit of data, but with a video call, I'm not sure how well it's going to go. That's the only reason why we don't do it like that.
Yeah.
And one of the benefits as well of using the GoPros is that we're recording, high fidelity locally, and then we send those files. We take turns in editing it from week to week.
And such beautiful footage from the GoPros.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't used mine in a while until I did the project with you guys. And that was looking back on the footage and like, wow, it's really beautiful,
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? You get good colors with the GoPro.
So maybe a couple weeks and people might see the one of us together. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's Saturday week from memory. Is that right, Joe? Or was it 27? Maybe
number. No, it's
28.
It's an even number.
Even
28.
Yeah, so it'll be
Saturday 27 this week. So it'll be next week.
So if you want to see me and Kama and Blowy have a conversation, and I'm in Miyajima, and Blowy's in Melbourne, and Kama is in Kyushu, and we're covering 3 places with our GoPros and on the phone. That was lots of fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Erin has a last question. She says, have you guys ever been to mountain parties in the summers in Niigata or other areas? Any mountain parties? No. I haven't.
I've only been to a mountain party in Australia.
Yeah.
My mate put on this big mountain party. It was like camping and a big rave, and he brought a trampoline and stuff. But never in.
Well, actually,
Japan.
near the Seto Inland Sea, we have a few great summer festivals outside. And there are some good mountain parties, like at Mount Aso, I think in Kyushu, they have a really good yearly party. I don't know if they've been doing it. Was it Country Music Festa? So I kind of stayed away.
This is the first time I've even heard that term, mountain party.
No, she says like in Nagano. We'll have to seek it out, Erin. You have to
Yeah.
send us some details. We'll check it out.
Erin as well. I'm pretty sure she was commenting on the last one as well. She seems like an active.
Yeah, well,
viewer.
she was in Japan for a long time, I believe, right, Erin? Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and thank you so much, Kama and Blowy. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later,
Thank you for
everybody.
your constant support.
Yeah, have a good day. Bye.